very, very special live broadcast from TrueFire and PRS. This is really our third TrueFire PRS live stream this month. As most of you, I hope know anyway, we're running all month long the 2020 road trip, partnered up with PRS. I gush a lot about them because I'm a PRS freak myself from way back. I talked last time about the 91 Artist Series 1 that, exploded my mind. It was just the most awesome instrument on the planet. And how amazed we are that as they've grown a lot, they've expanded their line, acoustics and amplifiers, and the quality remains impeccable. We have with us today Bryan Ewald, who I am now a major fan of. We've gotten to work together a little bit this month. He knows it all. He knows all about it. He's a great player, session player, recording artist, a gear nutcase like the rest of us. And Bryan, tell us, let's go through the prize pool you guys have put together for the road trip. What are the 3 PRS items in the pool?
Right. So good to see you again. PRS has put together an amp, an acoustic, and an electric. We did the amp last week, was a 20-watt Sanzera combo. Amp I'm very, very fond of. Great grab-and-go combo, plenty loud for gigs. Killer sounding clean channel and lead channel. I think they're going to put the link up so you can rewatch what we talked about last time on that.
Yeah.
And a week from today, we're going to be talking about the T60E acoustic, which is the T stands for Tonari body style, which is the non-cutaway, more full-sized acoustic they make. The E means that it's electric. It does have a Fishman pickup in it. Gorgeous guitar, killer bang for the buck. I've got one here that's my actual personal guitar, which I'll pull out and show in a minute, but we'll dig deep into that next week. I'm even going to show a little bit of the new parlor guitar that just came out, was just released a couple days ago. I've got one of those here too, so as a bonus, we'll check that thing out maybe a little bit today, but definitely we'll delve into it next week. But today we're going to be talking about this thing, which is the S2594 single cut. So what I'm going to be explaining a lot today, in addition to playing and demoing this, is talking about the model itself, what the name means, where it came from. There's a core version of this guitar, which is probably gone up to about near the top of their biggest selling guitars now. The Custom 24 was by far, for a long time, the kind of their flagship model that outsold any of the other models. When the 594 came out, it almost instantly came up neck and neck with it. It has really been a successful piece, and I get it. It's a killer guitar. This is the single cut version. The S2 version is brand new. So a lot of what people ask me in clinics and demos is how the core and the S2 differ, where the price, they're both handmade in Maryland. It's the same model, but there's a big difference in price. So like talking about exactly what goes into this and where the price differences are, we'll cover all that today. But killer guitar. We'll be going through all the specs and having a listen to this today.
Awesome. Hey, did you get a chance to tune in? We did the PRS Festival with David Grissom, Corey Congelio, and Tony McManus. Did you get to see some of that?
I caught most of it. I watched most of Corey's and David's, and I missed most of Tony's because I had a session, but I have it bookmarked to go back and rewatch. That's the beauty of these things being archived. But yeah.
I know. They were a fan of all 3 of them guys. Just phenomenal. Let's post the link in the chat feed here. So in fact, let's get both links if we can. One to Bryan's first gear deep dive on the amplifier, which we did earlier this month. And then if we could post a link to the festival with Tony McManus, David Grissom and Corey Congilio. I think you guys would really, really dig that. The festival's long, okay? So it's just meaty, though. Lots of great playing, lots of great insight, and you know, and a lot of love for their respective PRS instruments. You know, Tony showed us. Paul made him. What's the name of that Greek instrument?
A bouzouki?
Yeah, he made him a bouzouki, which is just amazing. And Tony talked about, you know, his love for the guitars that he plays now, and of course David Grissom. You know, he was like the first really major artist to, right? I mean, it was
First
Carlos, David Grissom,
a signature model for sure. Yeah.
Yes. And man, I've been wanting to get one of those Grissom models for a while, and after that thing, I think I, you know, absolutely have to save my pennies and pick one of those up. So go ahead, tell us about the guitar. Play as much as you want for us too.
I will for sure. So, you know, real quick, let me just talk about the 594 itself, what the name means, what the model is, and then we'll kind of talk about the S2 version. The 594 is a, you know, Paul, when he names things, there's always a meaning to the numbers. They're not just arcane. The pickups in this are another example. These are the 5815 S's. So any of the pickups that he's made over the past over 12 years now that are vintage inspired, the numbers refer to years. So he came out with a pickup called a 5708, which was a 1957 inspired humbucker that came out in 2008. Then the 5909s was a 1959 style humbucker that came out in 2009. So these pickups being 5815 S's are 58 inspired, 1958 inspired, and they came out, you know, in 2015. So that being said, though, is a good insight into Paul's mind. You know, when I talk about vintage pickups or vintage guitars, and most of us do, you know, we lump decades sometimes. Usually, you know, it's like 50s style, 60s, you know, 70s. You know, we kind of group them all together. Paul, in his OCD-ness, you know, to him, there's a difference between a 57, a 58, a 59 style humbucker. You know, we all know that neck shapes differed a lot during those years and things, but all those vintage humbuckers change. You know, no two sets are exactly like, but you know, that's the 594 name actually comes from a very specific measurement in the scale length. So if you know anything about Paul's history, for the longest time, all PRS guitars were 25-inch scale length. That he came out right in between the Gibson, which was like 24 3/4 ish roughly, and the Fender 25.5. Paul came in at 25 inches right in between them. A lot of his original designs were a marriage of his two favorite classic designs, you know, Les Pauls and Strats. And over the years, when he first made his first short scale guitar, which came out as the 245s, the 245, any model that says 245 refers to 24.5 inch, so 24 and a half. It's actually a little bit shorter than the traditional Gibson scale length. The Gibson scale length is I think kind of misunderstood. I know I misunderstood. I always kind of estimated it 24 3/4. Paul, years and years and years of measuring vintage guitars. And when you talk about scale length and talking about the difference of 30 seconds of an inch, you know, depending on where the saddle is set and everything, you know, getting an exact measurement can be tough. He determined that the precise measurement would be 24 and about 1930 seconds, I believe is what it comes out to be, which relates to 24.594 inches. So the model of this guitar, the 594, is the fraction of an inch of the scale length. So this is 24.594 inches. That's what the name means. All right. So outside of that geek talk, the 594, when it
you keep that geek talk up. We love that.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Yes. So when the 594 first came out, it was a double cut, traditional PRS body shape, but 4 knobs, and with the toggle switch up here on the horn, the way you would expect it to be in this, kind of, Gibson style, layout. But even with the double cut version, and that's the guitar that first came out and just completely kind of rocked the world in the PRS camp. That was the guitar that John Mayer, Paul lent John Mayer one long, months and months and months before it was released. And John fell in love with it and said that, quite a bit in his social media that it was the best new guitar he'd ever played. It had the heart and soul of the best vintage guitars he'd ever played. And he actually leaked it before it was released.
Really?
And of course, Paul wasn't mad at all about that.
How could you be?
No, it certainly didn't help, hurt sales by any means.
Right.
But it's a great guitar. Any of the 594s are great. When it first came out, it was just the one. Then they came out with a single cut option. And then there's been semi-hollow versions and full hollow versions. This past NAMM, they released 3 new ones. They released the single cut, which we have to talk about today, and PRS is given away. They have the S2 double cut, and they have a thin line, which is a brand new design altogether. So the thin line is a slightly thinner body. It has the toggle switch is down here. Definitely a little bit more sonically to me, like in the SG camp, and really, really cool guitar. So I'm going to play a little bit on this real quick, and then we're going to kind of get into talking about the differences between the S2 model and the core version, where the price point, why the big difference in price, and where and how these are made, so you get a better idea.
Cool.
But for those of you who are tired of listening to me talk, I'm going to let you get tired of listening to me play real quick. So I'm going to go through first and demo a humbucker guitar, 2 humbucker guitar, clean. Because to me, the best way, we'll get into some gain sounds, but the best way to hear a guitar is without all the bells and whistles, no gain, nothing else to cover it up. And if a humbucker guitar, especially like a bridge pickup, can sound usable and sweet and, in a clean setting, it's always going to sound great with gain. Most humbuckers, bridge humbuckers especially clean, are kind of lackluster, either really odd mid ranges. It's not typically your go-to sound when you're playing clean humbucker bridge, but that's where I'll start. I'll start on that one. So bridge pickup, everything's all the way up except for my volume pedal. So you can hear, for a bridge pickup, super warm, super round. It never gets harsh up high. And what I love about it is a lot of guitars, and basses especially, but a lot of guitars for sure, have like sweet spots on the neck where the notes just really bloom and ring out. And then they have spots on the neck that you tend to avoid because up here they get real thin and plinky maybe, or, So I have spent so much time on PRSs of every price point, the SEs, the S2s, all the different models. I never find those areas that don't sound good. So even these areas that get really thin and plinky on a bridge pickup up here, I don't have a compressor on. I don't have anything else. It's just straight into a clean amp that's relatively quiet. So I'm not getting any help from anywhere. And the guitar sounds really full. Like even the notes up here ring. There's body to them. There's sustain, everything clean.
And why? What do you attribute that to? I mean, what's the magic?
It's a combination, in my estimation, it's a combination of the guitar itself has a lot to do with it, the build quality of the guitar. There's, a lot of things about the construction of a guitar want to rob you of sustain, want to rob you of tone. Paul once described to me an interesting thing that I never really thought of. He said a guitar doesn't create treble. A bright guitar doesn't mean that there's something about the guitar that's making it trebly. There's something about the guitar that's robbing it of low end. So it's the treble that you hear come through. A guitar that sounds muddy or bassy or, is not a guitar that's you don't create energy, right? You can only, nothing acoustically, but things rob it. So like if a guitar sounds bassy or boomy, it's because something is robbing it of top end. And it could be any number of mechanical things between the tuner, the bridge, the neck construction, all kinds of things about the construction of the guitar can rob you of those. So Paul has spent a lifetime figuring those things out. So if the guitar sounds great acoustically, so that's a great way to start to know you don't need a pickup to fix something that's wrong with the guitar. If a guitar sounds great acoustically, it's so much easier to amplify it, right? But as far as the pickups themselves, he also spends a lot of time figuring out how sonically, he wants top end, but he wants good top end. He doesn't, not all top end is good. Some is harsh and bright and brittle, but some can be sweet. Same thing with low end. There's low end that sounds good and there's low end that's muddy. So he created a process, or he kind of discovered a process. A lot of it started with him and John Mayer working on the pickups for the Silver Sky, what he calls TCI. It's called tuned capacitance and inductance. And what it is a way of it's the difference between, he kind of describes it the difference between mixing a song and mastering a song. It's having a very specific idea of what you want in this pickup and kind of fine tuning, almost EQing your results with, in design to have the end result be what you want it to be. And in the beginning, it was those pickups in the Silver Sky and the pickups on the Paul's guitar, in his personal guitar, that came out as called TCI pickups. He basically took his personal guitar with his pickups, revoiced them with this process. Since then, they've gone through and basically done the TCI process on every pickup across the line. So every pickup, whether it's an SE, an S2, a core guitar, a private stock, they have done that on. So I think it's a combination of all of that. There isn't one thing that makes it sound that way. Let's go in and have a listen to the neck pickup real quick.
Cool.
Clean. Now, one thing you might, looking at a guitar like this and expecting, okay, it's 4-knob, 2 humbucking pickup, both of the tone pots on here pull out. So you can independently split these from a humbucker to single coil. So going back through both of them, here's the bridge pickup as humbucker. Not really what you expect when you see this guitar to get that kind of twang, right? It's, or that. Really great, I was always skeptical of humbuckers being split. I grew up a single coil fan. That really, most of my world is in the single coil world. And I didn't really love humbucking guitars until probably the past 10 or 15 years when I actually started playing humbuckers that sounded the way I liked. I grew up in the 80s, so it was super high output humbuckers. They were great for a certain thing, but not for what I liked. They didn't have much character. When I finally played vintage and vintage style humbuckers, I realized, oh, they're wonderful, but they don't usually split well. Usually they sound kind of unusable to me, split. I don't know exactly what PRS does different, but the Grissom model is incredible. If you ever play a DGT, try the split coil sounds, it's incredible. The new Paul's guitar, they're all great. And same thing, here's the neck pickup, split. Humbucker, split. And you can hear, there's a volume difference, as you would expect, but it's not massive. A lot of times when you split coils, it doesn't really, especially in a live setting, it doesn't really work. Your volume drops off so much that your single coil sound really is not usable. But the levels are very balanced from them. Going into kicking a little gain on it. Same thing with the neck pickup. The bridge pickup. What I really notice about switching pickups on any of these guitars is that the neck pickups have a really nice kind of woolly, low warmth to them, like a great vintage pickup would, but without ever getting overbearing. The bridge pickup has a nice, airy top, shimmer to the top, but without ever being too bright. They're very balanced from one to the other. Doesn't matter where I am on the neck. I don't feel like I have to like start being careful because like, oh, the neck pickup's going to start running away in the low end, or I have to be careful up here because the bridge pickup is going to start getting ice picky. There's really not a bad spot on the neck, a bad place switching wise. These guitars have a ton of sound options because both in the 4-knob configuration and with both of these being independently being able to be humbucker or single coil, you know, in the middle position, I can have humbucker, humbucker, single, single, hum, single, single, hum. You know, there's so many possible sounds within this guitar. It kind of is a Swiss Army guitar. You could really bring on just about any kind of gig, any recording situation, and get whatever you need. So somebody out there is going to be very lucky when they win this. I will say they're going to have to put new strings on it, though, because I've been playing it while it's been at my house quite a bit.
Well, that adds a lot of value to it right there, man.
I restring it for them before they set it out.
Let me do a quick, I want to show the landing page for the road trip and tell folks how they can go about winning either of the guitars, the electric or the acoustic or the amp. Guys, can you show the road trip page? If you go to TrueFire, you'll find plenty of banners and links to get to the 2020 road trip presented by PRS and TrueFire. And you'll see on the right-hand side of that landing page, the 3 PRS items that are in the prize pool. To win one, honestly, there's no purchase necessary, of course. You just go to the page, click a link that gives you entries. You can come every day, add your entries, but also there's a ton of activities, some fun things, of course, a lot of educational things. Every day there's a different set. You can participate in any of those and win more entries for the guitar. So, you know, we've done a few of these promotions with PRS, and they're always extraordinarily popular. And we love getting, you know, when the winner gets that shipped to them and they open it up, usually they take a picture, they, you know, send us an email, and it's just a very exciting thing. So go to that landing page. Underneath the YouTube video, you'll find a bunch of links. There's a link to check in. If you check in on today's event right now, if you check in, you're entered in a drawing to win a $100 gift card. There's the link to the road trip promotion, but there's also links to the single cut we're talking about today, to the T60E acoustic guitar, which we'll do in a week or so. We'll do a deep dive on that. And there's also links to the Sonzera amps, the 21 amps, which were phenomenal. And you have the link to the demo, and you have the link to the PRS festival, which if you check out any link, go check out that festival and see what, you know, David, Tony, and Corey have to say about their PRS gear. Station break is over, Brian. Back to you.
So, like I said, probably the first question I get when we talk about the S2 version of the 594, which we have here, as opposed to the core version, the original one that came out. And I'm going to say rough numbers here because I don't know. I'm not in sales, so I don't know exactly what their street costs are. But there's over a $2,000 difference, I believe, somewhere. I mean, it's substantial. These are made 100% in the Maryland factory by hand by the same people who make the other ones. There obviously is a difference because the price is different. And the main thing that goes in, I'll talk about basically everything that goes into the two that create differences. It's not a lesser quality wood or anything like that. The number one difference is time. Actual hands-on labor time to build them. The way that is, or the reason that is mostly to do with the shape of the guitar itself. So a core guitar, and I'll pull down, even though this is not a 594, this guitar is what you would expect when you see a typical PRS single cut. The carve of the top is the typical PRS violin carve. It's thicker in the center. It swoops down. It swoops up. There's these divots underneath the knobs. Thinking back to the original PRS shape, that violin carve is kind of what people come to expect when they see a PRS. That is incredibly time consuming to make. There's a CNC machine that cuts out the rough cut of the body. Everything else is done by hand. There are multiple sanding stages through the wood shop, through the finish hall. It's about, I believe I was told, about 90 minutes per stage, per guitar. So all in all, you've got over 20 hours, usually 20 to 22 hours of hands-on skilled labor time to build a core instrument, depending on which one. So the way they wanted to bring in a guitar at a lower price point, when they introduced the S2 line, they realized they had to get the amount of time it took them to build the guitar down. That's the number one thing. Paul's not the type to just go, oh, we're going to slap on the cheapest parts we can find. That's
Right.
not his way.
Right.
So the most time consuming thing is the sculpting project of the shape. So with every S2 guitar, the S2 guitars are flat with a bevel, right? This is a sanding project. You can block sand this in much less time. Each sanding stage in the finish hall and the wood shop and all that cuts down to roughly 30 minutes per stage instead of 90 minutes per stage. So you take a guitar that takes 20 plus hours and you get it down to about roughly 11, 12, 13 hours. The goal is to be about half the time in the build. So that is the number one difference in what makes up the majority of the cost. This particular model has the exact same hardware you would find. It's the same bridge, the same tuners that you would find on the core model. The pickups are different. These are 5815S's, where on the core model you would have regular 5815s. The difference is the regular 5815s are wound in Maryland. The other ones are made for Paul outside of the factory, but they are voiced by Paul. They are made, and they are A-B'd relentlessly until Paul is happy with them. That is true of every pickup in the line. I think people give Paul a hard time when something is not done in his factory like this. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, oh, that's the SE stuff. That's the import stuff. Like most guitar companies, people don't know where the pickups are made, or they're not all made in-house. Paul has just always been so transparent about things that, he'll do something that everybody else does, and everybody gives him, flack for it, where they let everybody else slide because he's been so transparent. But these pickups, I have A-B'd side by side against the core ones. They sound incredible. They sound, like great pickups. The thing is, if you really don't like pickups in a guitar, they're the easiest thing to change,
Right.
But I think they all sound fantastic. So the pickups are different, the shape is different, and the only other big thing really is the neck, the construction of the neck. A core guitar, the neck is made from a piece of mahogany that is big enough to incorporate the pitch of the headstock and the thickness of the heel. It's a piece of mahogany, much thicker and longer, an expensive piece of wood, and a lot of that is waste. Most of that wood is carved away. On an S2 guitar, they use a piece of mahogany that's thick enough, the same quality mahogany, but just thick enough for the neck, the shape of the neck. It is cut at an angle, and there is a scarf joint for the headstock, and then they take a little bit off the top, and they use it to thicken the neck heel. Guitar companies all over use scarf joints on super expensive guitars. There is nothing, it does not affect the tone of the guitar. It certainly doesn't affect the stability of the, I mean, if I were to drop this on the headstock, the last place it would break is where that scarf joint is. It's incredibly strong. So again, the idea was, how do they make a Maryland-built guitar as inexpensively as possible without compromising on quality or making an inferior product, but make it in less time and save what they can on materials. They could have done a lot to bring this in even cheaper. The other thing is it comes with a gig bag, which a lot of people complain about. They go, why does a guitar that still costs in the, above $1,000, $1,500, why does it have a gig bag?
Right.
What they don't realize is that cost is always included. Like, if you have a guitar that comes with a hard shell case, you're paying for that case. It's factored into the cost of the sale of the guitar. If this guitar came with a hard shell case, it would just be a little bit more expensive. So and they sell cases. So what they're doing is saying, it comes with a nice, really nice heavy padded gig bag. And if you want a case, you can buy it. They're just giving you the choice. If it came only with a hard shell case, you would be paying for that case in the retail cost. So most people just don't understand that. They just, the idea is they're trying to get the cost as low as possible, but keep that quality bar up. So it's really just time, and a lot of it is just the cost of the construction of the neck. The way he does the chord guitars is a very traditional, old school craftsmanship style way of building. I believe every tailor uses a scarf joint. Like, they make wonderful guitars at all kinds of price points, and they're all with the scarf joint technology. So it's certainly not, something to worry about.
What a great explanation, man. I've never heard anyone quite explain it in the way that you did. And I have a question, PRS guitars, for me, certainly the more expensive ones that we have in the studio or that I own personally, for me, they're like works of art, it's, and it's the aesthetic thing more than anything, the shape of it, it's more like in your head. And when you think of your instrument as an art object, aesthetically, there are certain things you're willing to pay for, right?
Sure.
But, there's no doubt that the tone is there, the playability is there. And the thing that, I'm told this, I don't know, hundreds of times, like, what is it? Why? A lot of instruments are ordered online, say Sweetwater, and there's a lot of returns on instruments because they come in and one, even very well-known brands, one guitar might not play as well as another guitar. But the thing that everyone seems to say, Grissom, David said it in his festival, is that when you get your PRS, it's going to sound right, it's going to play right. And so I guess my question to you is, why is that? Is that design? Is that quality control at the factory? Is that the way they're set up? Why is the quality and consistency across all of the PRS instruments, more expensive ones and the more affordable ones, why is it so solid, I guess?
It's a good question. So yeah, you did hit upon the answer in that it is quality control is what it is. And it's the way that the business has been set up. It's the way that Paul, if he's going to put his name on something, he has a benchmark that he's like, okay, I'm not, like, he's never put out factory seconds, but still, to build an instrument to where the consistency is there, to where you pick them all up, they all feel great. Like what I think what David said, I saw that part where he was talking about he doesn't bring a guitar with him. He shows up, picks up any DGT off the wall. That is my world when I'm doing any work for PRS. They're sending me to a clinic somewhere, or I go to NAMM, or I go in somewhere to do a video. I'm not bringing my guitar. I'm not demoing anything I'm familiar with. I'm being handed guitars off the wall of a guitar store somewhere, and I have to do a demo on them. And aside from the models being different, like, I'm perfectly comfortable knowing that when they hand it to me, the only thing I'm worried about is that how long has this been hanging on the wall, and are the strings dead?
Right.
You know, if I'm going to a guitar store. But that's an easy fix if it is. But otherwise, like, I could pick up the same guitar from store to store to store to store, and once I've played one, I know what it's going to do. I know what it's going to sound like. I know what it's going to feel like, and I can pick up 10 other ones, and they're going to feel and sound just like that. So part of the way they do that is Paul has done a couple things from the day he opened his factory. One thing he does is that every person who puts their hands on that guitar puts their initials in the pickup cavity. Partially, it gives you a little pride of ownership. Like, yes, I worked. Like, if you work at PRS and you see a guitar from 1997 and you worked there then, and they pull the pickup, you can be, oh yeah, I worked on that. You're like, that piece of me going into that.
Awesome, man.
The other thing is that there's accountability. You can't slack on your job. Like, you can't be on the 220 bench and just like do a half-ass job and then and wait till it goes down, because your name is in there. They'll know if there's 220 scratches on it that, and a lot of it's in training too, so they can go back if they. So what they do every Friday, and Paul has been doing this since 1985. Every Friday there's a manager meeting where Paul, Jack Higginbotham, Jamie, the current president, like basically all of the department heads. They all meet in a room, and they randomly grab, I think it's like 7 guitars from shipping. Okay? So these are boxed, ready to go out. And they could be any model, from any price point. And they take them out, and they go over them with a fine-tooth comb, looking for anything. Finish flaws, setup flaws, in the fretwork, in the, any possible thing you can imagine. And it's not just that they're just trying to catch something before it goes out. They're trying to be ahead of any systemic problems. If they find 2 guitars where the roundover of the fretboard is too sharp or not sharp enough for Paul's standards, and they can look in there and go, okay, this is so-and-so on the sanding bench, and they can go back and be like, hey, make sure you keep an eye on this. They can make sure that they are. It's a way to keep track of quality control on the complete level as you're going, not just riding along blindly waiting for a problem to come up and then figure out how to fix it. It's a great, and everybody there has immense pride in what they do. All across the company, you could go do a factory tour and you see it, talking to people. They love what they do. They believe in the product. That's the other part. It's a very family style environment there. Even as they grow, it still has that. And I think that's really what it is. It's Paul has set it up so that quality control can maintain here very reasonably. He's set it up from the ground from day one, a way to build these consistently, and as they've grown, they've kept that.
Yeah, we talked about that last time, about how, in the early stages of a company, that's kind of an easy thing to do. But as the company grows and there's more people, it's much more challenging. And at the end of the day, it's that passion that, we talked about that, how passionate everybody that works at PRS from, across the whole range of the company. And that passion equates to the kind of quality and consistency that we're talking about today. I love that, man. That's great insight. How about play us some music on that thing, would you?
I will. Before I do, real quick, just to another side of that is with the SEs that are made overseas. Every single one of those, every acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, they all come to Maryland. So that was part of Paul's thing when he first started the SE line, was one of the things that he was most adamant about. He was like, my team in Maryland have to be the last set of hands on this instrument. He wasn't willing to have guitars built overseas, go in a shipping container, and then go off straight to the stores.
Right.
So every SE, when you get an SE and you see the little hang tag that says inspected by so-and-so, that's somebody in Maryland. And
That's
it's
so
actually
cool.
a pretty small team. So when you pick up even like a $500 SE standard, it's the same small group of, I think there's about a dozen or less people who have their hands. So that's why the setups are also all consistent. It's those same people that, have to work under those same, strict guidelines. If it doesn't meet Paul's standards for a $5,000 guitar, he's not going to put it out even on a $500 guitar.
Love it.
But they all come from Maryland. If it's not hand built in Maryland, which the SEs aren't, they still go through. The S2s are still hand built in Maryland.
Incredible, man.
So I'm going to throw a backing track here, and I'll just kind of play through a couple things on that.
And I want shout out to anyone that's tuned in live here. If you have any questions, very obviously we have the right guy to answer your questions about any PRS guitar, amp, acoustic, electric. So please post that in the chat, and we'll get every single one of them answered. All right, man, you're on.
Sounds great. And the track I'm gonna play here. Sorry, just getting something changed. All right, track I'm gonna play to here is if you've watched anything on PRS recently on their social media, they posted a play at home challenge, which they put some backing tracks up online that you can go grab and record yourself playing to and send to them. And they're posting, right now they mainly posted like employees playing to them, but anybody's welcome to do it. Those backing tracks I actually recorded here. And the latest one that they just did is the one I'll pull up and play to. And the little proud moment is that the drums on it were played by my 14-year-old son. So,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
is that happening right now, like this month? Can people go there now and participate? So, guys, let's see if we can't find a link to that and post that in the chat as well.
Yeah, it's in the PRS blog somewhere. Like if you scroll on it's the PRS Play at Home Challenge, and there's a link where you can go grab the backing tracks.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so this is the one that they just posted.
Very nice. Sounded great.
Thank you.
So that's your son playing drums on that?
Yeah. And actually on all the other backing tracks is my other son playing drums. I have two boys that both are killer drummers, and they play other stuff too, but drums are their main thing. But yeah, that's 14-year-old kid. I just said, hey, give me a groove, and he played it. I put down a rhythm track and a bass track, and
you gotta love that, right?
I do.
Hey, Shane, yes, can you show the link, Play at Home Challenge?
That's what we're looking at right now. Yep.
And a lot of good comments in the live chat about the tracks, about employees playing over the tracks. Very, very cool, man. Very cool. There you go.
One thing I will say about like the pickups on this guitar and the you know, all the 594s in general, the 5815 pickups. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up a single coil guy, and again, I think it was just the nature of the era that I grew up in. I loved Van Halen growing up, and I loved those tones, and loved humbuckers for that. But as I kind of grew over the years or changed, you know, the kind of stuff I played just didn't call for those kind of sounds. And there was something about the quality of the character of these lower output pickups that, you know, I kind of felt like I could hear the guitar more than I'm hearing just the sound of this high output pickup pummeling the front end of the amplifier or whatever it is. And when I finally first played like my first set of like great sounding vintage humbuckers, like low output humbuckers, I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I get why people love these things. Like, and so maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I became obsessed with humbuckers through that. And it was the 594, that specific guitar, or actually right before it came out, but it was those pickups. It was the 5815s. They weren't even called that yet. I happened to be in the factory filming something, and Paul called me into the office and was like, he's like, hey, check out this guitar. And it was a prototype of what became a 594. And I plugged it in, and I was like, before I left that day, I was like, I need a guitar built that has these pickups in it, and that's the guitar that I pulled down a second ago, right? and I've used that guitar and these pickups on so many projects, so many records. It has become kind of my go-to, which is funny. Like if you had known me 20 years ago, it was all single coils, and like these pickups to me, clean, overdriven. I mean, I could bring this guitar to a country gig, and it would crush. And I have to say, like, they would probably be, if I had a desert island guitar and pickup, it would be a 594 and the 5815s. Like to me, and any of the models I love, it's probably one of my favorite guitars they've ever made. And I love the Silver Sky too. Yeah. That also just really speaks to what I grew up playing, and it's fantastic. If I had to pick two, it'd be probably those. And if I had to add a third, it'd be a DGT. I'd have all my bases covered.
But you'd go 594 first?
Yeah, 594 is if I had to pick one.
So go in order. So number one, 594. What would be the second guitar you'd bring to the island?
It'd probably be a Silver Sky.
Okay.
Yeah, again, just because it's so, like, I grew up playing Strats, and like to me, I still own a couple and ones that I love, and ever since I got the Silver Sky, basically I haven't touched any of my others. It is to me, again, they're not all the same. Like, modern Strats and vintage Strats are very different, and I get it. There's no one guitar that's going to suit everybody perfectly.
Right.
But for what I love, if you love the vibe and the feel and the sound of a like early 60s Strat, but it does its own thing too. It really does. It's to me, it's so easy to play, and it sounds incredible. So it's kind of stopped my obsession of finding that right vintage Strat, which comes with a price tag I can't afford, and maintenance that can be weird. So it would be this, then the Silver Sky. My other favorite go-to is there's a gold top McCarty back there that I have a P90 in, and a weird little mini humbucker in the neck, which is kind of my go-to slide guitar. But I use it for all kinds of stuff. And the DGT to me is like one of those that I absolutely adore.
I know. Every time David comes into the studio, you get, the fever starts to rise to go and pick up one of those, and then you get a little distracted. But man, after this little PRS festival we did, which we linked to, it's gonna go down. We're gonna get a DGT without a shadow of a doubt. Do you have another backing track and dial up maybe another tone? And
sure can.
Treat us a little bit to something else, and then I gotta have you do some looping too. Okay.
Oh yeah, sure. All right, so I'm gonna just put on like kind of a super low gain little thing here.
Yeah.
And turn this up for me to hear a little bit. And I'm going to turn my mic down so it doesn't bleed too much. But this is a low gain thing. And I'll kind of switch. I'll start off as single coils. And then about halfway through, I'll kind of kick both in and go through humbucker sounds with it.
Beautiful. Stage is yours.
All right. And this features my other son, Aiden, on drums.
Nice.
Beautiful, man. So there's a couple of cool comments I want to read to you.
Oh, and by the way, that track is also in the Play at Home Challenge if you want to pull that one up. That's in the, if you're looking at the Play at Home stuff, that's in there.
Very cool. The first of all, tell people where you're streaming from.
I'm actually in Annapolis, Maryland, or just outside Arnold, Maryland. I'm in.
And this is your music room, right?
Yeah. This is my basement. I always dreamed of, like, my last house. I had, all my gear set up in an unfinished basement. My washer and dryer was there. I'd pull my keyboard out and set it up on the washer and dryer when I needed a keyboard stand. And then when we moved in here, we've been here almost 20 years, 18 years or 19 years now. And this was an unfinished room. It was storage. So we have very little storage in our house. My wife is a saint for letting me do this. But when I'm not out gigging, when I'm doing session work, I am fortunate enough to get to do most of it here. So I do a lot of overdubs. I do some producing and mixing and stuff here, but primarily my bread and butter is playing sessions, adding a little bit of keys, lots of guitars, other odds and ends. That little glass door right there is where I keep cabinets. So I got all my amp heads over here, cabinets back there, and here I'll spin the camera over there. You can
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So Ron Falkoff says he wants to go to your garage sale.
I don't sell stuff as much as I buy it, obviously, but every once in a while I do. I get a wild hair and I unload a couple things just to facilitate another purchase. But
yeah, well, I think we all know what that feels like. But you've done quite well. You've held on to quite a lot of very cool stuff. So when you do have that garage sale, let TrueFire know. We'll post it. You'll have a million. You'll have a million people out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting to run out of time, but please, guys, any questions at all? I'm gonna ask you, man, if you could do some of that looping stuff. Can you do that?
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll ask you some questions. You'll give the answers, and we will have completed another killer deep dive, man.
Sounds good. Let me make up a little groove here. You have any favorite keys? Throw a key out.
C sharp.
Major or minor?
Minor.
All right, C sharp minor.
Beautiful,
Nice looping.
man.
Thank you.
I love that looping stuff. I just think it's so cool. But every time I try, I can't like chew gum and walk at the same time. So I can't just click on that loop pedal. You know, I'm always off like a fraction of a beat, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's a TrueFire lesson that I'll record for you at some point.
That is a deal. You know, we TrueFire students love the looping thing, but we've been talking, for those of you in the audience, you know, before and after these things, we're definitely going to figure out a way to do some projects together. As you can tell, Bryan is deep knowledge and deeply talented. Okay, you ready for some questions, man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, can anyone, some of these you may or may not know, but can anyone join that home challenge? This poster is from Japan. Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anyone is welcome to download them, record a video of you playing to them. I believe there's a link on there where you can send them to PRS. Actually, I believe what they asked you to do is you can just post it on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, post it on social media, and just tag them. I believe they put hashtags. I think it's called like Play at Home Challenge, My PRS or something. So there's instructions on there just to post it wherever you like, tag them, and they said they want to watch whatever anybody's doing, and they may select some that they're going to post and share.
Beautiful.
Open day.
Let's see. Peter Burkhart wants to know, if you're playing Danny Gatton Telly style, what model PRS would you go to?
Hello, Peter Burkhart. Pete is an old friend and former student of mine.
Oh, really? That's
yes,
so awesome.
Yeah. Great talent.
So is that like, is he trying to stump you, or is that a loaded question? Or
no, he's genuinely asking. Unless it's a different Peter Burkhart, but I do know, I'm sure it's the Pete I know. Comes from a very wonderful family and talented family. His brother's also a great drummer.
Cool.
Yeah, Pete, I would say if I was doing, Gatton style stuff, there's surprisingly, I probably get the closest to the Telly world from the Vela. I've got a Vela hanging up back here. The big thing with the Vela is that it's got a plate style bridge and brass saddles, brass barrel saddles. If you're going to compare them side by side, is it going to sound exactly like Telly? Of course not. No two guitars do, but I would say I would start there. I do a lot of stuff with the Silver Sky, middle pickup Silver Sky. Another classic thing to, if you want to get in the Telly world, is take a guitar like a Silver Sky, a Strat style guitar, and put a push pull in something to where you can turn on the outside two pickups at the same time. If you're handy with a soldering iron or have a guitar tech to do that kind of stuff. If you were to go through pretty much every guitar I have on the wall in here, almost nothing is bone stock. I'm a tinkerer, whether I do it myself or I have somebody do it. Like, I never leave well enough alone. I'm always trying stuff. So I know some people are like, it's sacrilege to buy a guitar and then mod it, if it was collectible one day. But I'd be that guy that if I had a 59 Les Paul back in the day, I would have done something to it to totally kill its value.
Right, exactly. Okay, here's one from Steve Roberts, G'day from Australia. He says, really like your playing. Just wondering if you could compare the feel of the neck on the new Maple Neck Silver Sky to the DGT. He has a 2018 DGT. I'm jealous already. And he loves, how would you compare the necks?
Okay. So the DGT, I actually is one of the models I don't have, which I even though I love them, and I have less time playing them as far as like demoing them and all that kind of stuff. But from my recollection, it's going to be a slightly wider neck. It's a little beefier. The Silver Sky feels to me like the best, like 63, 64. It's not, it doesn't have like that super deep C shape. I I don't know what the exact specs and dimensions are, but it is a closer to a idealized version of what Paul and John were looking for. Definitely more fendery in its neck profile, where the DGT strikes me more as a Les Paul-esque, a beefy Les Paul neck, without the flat radius. Both of them, the Silver Sky neck also has the vintage 7¼ inch radius, which I was a little nervous about, but I love it because I don't have any. I was worried about bending issues on it. I don't have any issues with it fretting out. But I have to say honestly that I am not one of those overly picky neck profile players. A lot of people talk very specifically like, man, I love that guitar, but I just couldn't, get with it because the neck shape, the only thing I don't like is super, super thin necks. I used to, but I don't anymore. But PRS doesn't make a neck that's too thin for me. Even though the pattern thin neck is very, very comfortable and playable to me. I tend to personally like beefier necks. This is the pattern vintage neck, which is one of the beefier ones that they put, but it doesn't feel like it because it's actually an asymmetrical neck carve. It actually is a little thicker, or the pattern of it changed. It's thicker, I believe, on the bass side down here, and as you move up, it gets thicker on the treble side. So as your hand moves and your hand position changes when it moves, the neck profile changes a little bit with it. So I would say they're relatively similar, more similar than you may think for a Strat style guitar and the DGT. But I'd say the DGT is probably a little beefier.
Cool. Ron wants to know, does mostly everyone at PRS play guitar?
No, surprisingly. I mean, plenty do. But they actually, speaking of which, they had me come in and last year, do some lessons, like group lessons, open to any of the employees after work.
Cool.
Because there's a lot of people who I think want to, and they got a job there, sanding in the wood shop or doing something, and probably because of a love of guitar, and there's a lot of other, there's drummers and there's bass players and but I think they all have a love of music, I'm sure. But yes, you would assume that everybody there is a guitar player, but I don't know what the percentage is. Probably over half.
Yeah, I would think so too. But
there's a lot of people there.
There's craftsmen, and designers. But apparently, everyone loves the aesthetics of the guitar and the workings of guitar, right?
Well, and there's a lot of people who work there now. I mean, between you have a shipping department, and you have, there's. I don't know if last I heard, I knew it was over 250, 260. They may have top 300 now. I don't know. It's a lot of people. So all in one building,
Very cool.
It's a big building.
Richard Sorensen asks, I have a question. Can a S2 studio model play like a single cut? I play blues, so I'd like to know.
So the S2 Studio, I'm not sure what he's asking about there is a studio model that's not an S2. There's an S2 standard. Maybe an S2 standard.
Well, answer it. Let's do both, the studio model and the S2.
Okay.
Can it play single cut for, is a good blues guitar?
Right. Here's my take on that. A lot of people will come to me and go, I want to buy a PRS. Or I want to buy I'm looking to buy a guitar. Here's my budget. Is this a good blues guitar? Is this a good rock guitar? Obviously, within some, if you want to play modern metal, there are some limitations of what may be you're probably not going to buy a Silver Sky. It doesn't necessarily, do that well. And if you want to play, blues, you're probably not going to buy some extended scale 8-string, without the exceptions. But in general, like, to say what's a good blues guitar, I mean, go through history, like Flying V's, 335s, Strats, Les Pauls, like you name it, somebody has played blues on it, right?
That's true.
And, you know, country might be one of those where you go, okay, more people often than not or think of a telly, but you go into Nashville and you look at like session players. I mean, they've got a boatload of guitars in the session. Right. It's not one-sided. You know, it's not like everything on a country record is a telly. So really, to me, it's much more what speaks to you. The feel of the guitar. Like the first thing I tell people, if you're looking for something like as your main guitar, let's say, do you like stop tail or trem? You know, if you really think you'll use the trem, then start there. If you really don't think you're going to use it, trems can pose issues, tuning issues, or like I do a lot of bending one note while I play another stationary note. So most of my guitars are stop tail, and I set my trems up accordingly so that they're a little tighter so I can do things on them. You know, the scale length of a guitar, you know, has a lot to do with the feel of it. But I really kind of feel like I could pick up any PRS S2 and take it to a blues gig or a rock gig. I don't, you know, with the exception of like a 7-string in the SE world, to me is a little bit more of a specific instrument. I absolutely, the answer is without a doubt, yes. It's totally a great blues guitar. It depends on if it speaks to you, if you like the feel, but I think any guitar is versatile. When people ask what's the most versatile model, I've heard guitars with a single pickup do all kinds of things because between the volume knobs and the way you play it, guitars can be expressive. You don't need a million switches and pickups. You know, there isn't a non-versatile guitar in their lineup or in most lineups, you know. So absolutely, go for the S2. You know, bang for the buck, they're incredible.
Awesome, man. Okay, let's show everyone the landing page where you can enter and hopefully win one of these 3 PRS, the acoustic guitar, the electric guitar, the amplifier. All you have to do is go there. PRS and TrueFire got together on this road trip. Lots of fun little things you can do to accumulate entries. You can earn entries on a daily basis. Jump in, learn a little, and good luck with the drawing. Also, I want to bring everyone's attention back to the links that are underneath the YouTube, on the YouTube page. Check in. You got the link to the road trip, tons of PRS links to the Sanzera, to the T60E, to the single cut where we just showed today. Bryan, you over deliver every time. You know, you're just amazing, man. I'm really looking forward, not only to the next gear thing. What's the date of the next one? Does anyone have that date down?
I think it's a week from today. Same time next Friday, the 29th.
So, yes, Tommy, is that it?
Yes, it's next Friday, the 29th is the last.
Okay, maybe we can post a link to that. And is that the guitar there, Bryan?
This is mine, but it's the same model. What a difference is, I put a pick guard on it. They don't come with a pick guard. I just had this lying around and I stuck it on there because I like pick guards. But
yeah, I am so anxious for the next one. Tony, go check out that PRS festival we hosted a week ago. The links in the chat here, the links underneath the video. And hey, while you're underneath the video, why don't you click that thumbs up? You know, show your love, show your appreciation. Bryan was phenomenal as always, but I can't wait to hear about, you know, the acoustic. And Tony shared so many cool insights to what you guys are doing with acoustic. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. I'm sorry we kept you a little over.
All good.
I hope we didn't screw up a gig or dinner or anything else like that. You're the best, man. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in a week.
Sounds great. Good talking to you.
Thanks,
Later,
Bryan.
man.